the thing about hospitality and food and everything else like that is don't get into it unless you absolutely love it. And I absolutely love it. And I'm just lucky enough that I'm in a position that I have gorgeous produce that I can cook and just do what I love.
This is The Crackling. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Sustainably farmed free-range pork is something that we come to expect these days, but what does it take to create a lifestyle for the pigs to give them their best life and look after the environment too? For pig farmer Ian Martin, it's just a normal way of life to work with the land, the animals, and the natural elements to find a synergy between them all. Ian, how are you?
Very well, thanks, Huck.
It's good to get you on the show. You're doing some amazing things out there on the farm. Tell us a little bit about the region where you are.
Region is South Coast, New South Wales, which is a gorgeous area. We're located about 2.5, 3 hours south of Sydney. I've been going to the area for the past 25 years, and I guess over the last 10 years we've seen a real renaissance in terms of food and food producers in the area. I could best describe the area 25 years ago as a food desert. I mean, now for us personally, we're 10 minutes from Milton. We've got 2 hatted restaurants in there, which is really good. It's good for tourism, and it's good for what everyone's trying to do down there.
Tell us a little bit about sort of why the region's good for farming pigs.
Well, ironically, we're probably the only pig farmer in the area. Really well known for beef, and we bought the farm about 12 years ago, and that's where we started. We always wanted to get into pigs, but pigs are a huge commitment. So given the fact we were absolute novice farmers, we took our things slowly to get our head around beef, and then we've moved into pigs. I think the area is fantastic because a lot of people don't realise that pigs actually eat grass. And the soil we have there's an ex-dairy farm, was so for 110 years, and has just absolutely gorgeous, healthy soil, which is really important for healthy pigs.
You mentioned that you were novices when you sort of started. What was the reason for the move into farming?
Okay, so here's the ironic thing. I spent 40 years in hospitality. I had my own catering business in Sydney for 17 years, and I looked at it and said, look, there's got to be an easier life. Had enough of employing chefs and waiters and everything else. I'm going to get into farming. And let me tell you, hospitality is a piece of cake compared to farming.
Well, tell us about the sort of beginnings of it all. Do you have any funny stories of the challenges of getting it up and running?
Oh, look, it's funny. It'll probably be funny in about 10 years' time. Look, the mistakes you make, and there's so many. I'd hate to do a cost analysis of what it's taken to set this farm up. Just in terms of fencing, in terms of the amount of times you'd get up in the morning and you'd find a cow or a steer at your backyard. And say, you're not supposed to be here. You're supposed to be somewhere else. And then you're spending the next 3 or 4 hours trying to get the herd back to where they're supposed to be. So yeah, look, it's not an easy gig, and it's certainly not something you're going to go into if you're looking for huge financial rewards.
You mentioned the introduction of pigs. What sort of impact have they made, and what's the difference in sort of what you do with introducing pigs to sort of the farm?
Okay, look, the main reason we've always wanted to do pigs is just the versatility of pork. Beef's a little bit one-dimensional. We do a lot of cure products. We do salamis. On top of that, we're running classes. We do a charcuterie course where we teach people how to make whole, from salami to prosciutto. We run events, so we'll do nose-to-tail type dinners and things like that. It just gives us a lot more options or strings in our bow to what we want to do.
I want to explore, particularly the charcuterie, in a little while. But it's fascinating that you had a career in hospitality for so long before becoming a farmer. Take us back to when you were sort of really young. What sort of role did food play in your family growing up?
Uh, Look, it was pretty prominent. My mum was a great cook, um, and I ate very well. And Dad was sort of into spit roasts and all that sort of thing. I mean, ironically, we lived in suburban northern beaches, and we had a pool. And one year, Dad decided that he was going to buy a whole lot of trout, put them in the pool, and grow them out. And he sat there in the boat in the pool fishing for trout. Um, he caught them, and we ate them for lunch. Just sort of, yeah, things like that. And I guess the story I tell, look, I was wasn't the greatest scholar in the world, and I finished my HSC, and I remember in those days you'd get letters of offer, and they weren't exactly pouring in, but I got two, and one was to go to the Ryde Catering College, and the other one was to do a Bachelor of Commerce at I think it was UTS or somewhere like that. And I said to my mum, because I had no idea, I just wanted to go play football and row surf boats, and I said to my mum, "What do you think I should do?" She goes, "Oh dear, you'd love cooking. Go and do cooking." And I've always said to my mother I had this one chance to be a stockbroker and drive a fast car, or work weekends and work in sweaty kitchens, and you sent me to the kitchens. So that's where I ended up.
Well, in those early years, what were the sort of important sort of people or venues that you worked with as you built your career in hospitality?
Oh, look, I was sort of lucky. I mean, I worked predominantly northern beaches. I was Barrenjoey House was one place. My wife's also a chef, and I met her what is now Peeloo. That was the freshwater restaurant back then. Cottage Point Inn was another place. We went overseas and worked in London for a little while. So yeah, we had some. Yeah, we're lucky enough to work in some pretty good places.
You mentioned the catering company that you had for quite some time. What's some of the highlights of and big events that you did over the years?
Oh wow. um, We'd had the business 3 months, and someone came and knocked on the door and said, "Oh, we've got this really big fundraising dinner we'd like you to do." Of course, we'd stuck this ad in gourmet because we thought it'd be nice if we were in gourmet. And they came in and said, "Oh, we can do that easily, no problem." It ended up being a sit-down fundraising dinner for the current Prime Minister, who was John Howard. And they didn't know we'd only been in business 3 months. But we were lucky enough, we traded over the Olympics. I was running the function centre at Customs House down at Circular Quay at the time, and we picked up some really good gigs there. We were a reception centre for all current and ex-Olympians. So, yeah, picked up a lot of good gigs during the Olympics.
The industry has evolved incredibly over the last couple of decades, and the last couple of years have been quite challenging. What's some of the biggest changes and shifts that you've seen in the sector over your time in it?
Look, one of the reasons I got out, because at the end of the day, in the corporate market, which was flooded with caterers, you were always just a price taker. And it came down to price and everything else like that. And what I've seen, that one of the benefits to come out of COVID is that now, the good caterers are charging what they should be charging, and the good caterers can actually make a decent dollar.
Was it difficult for you to make that transition from the hospitality sector into farming?
Look, I transitioned at 52 years of age. I went and did my butchery apprenticeship, which was a challenge in itself. So there was I back at Granville TAFE with the 16 to 18-year-olds doing my butchery apprenticeship. But I loved every minute of it. And I was lucky enough to work in some good places in terms of butchers, and learn what I wanted to do. So no, look, I wouldn't say it was hard. The farming is just such a dynamic gig. You're always learning. You're always doing something. It's really exciting.
The butchery part is fascinating to know, having been in the hospitality sector and then butchering and farming. Do you remember the first time you broke down a whole pig and sort of the important elements of that?
Oh, absolutely. It was empowering. And I think, especially, I don't think chefs understand enough about butchery, what muscles they can use, and especially in this day and age, especially in restaurants with tight margins and things like that. I think it's essential that chefs understand all the different muscles within an animal and the opportunities for whole animal butchery.
These days, you're running the farm, and what does it take to run a sort of sustainable farm that looks after the beast and the environment? What's some of the challenges that you face?
The challenge is making money. Um, Look, just having pigs is challenging in itself. Pigs are super intelligent. Um, Pigs will challenge fencing, will do that. You're battling the elements. I mean, we're in Conjola. We 3 years ago got bashed up by bushfires, and 6 weeks later we got the worst flood we've ever had. So you're always battling the elements. In terms of pigs, the management of your pasture is really important. If you leave pigs in pastures for too long, they will destroy it. And what we're about is you've got to rotate your pastures. You've got to, because what you want is you want the animals rooting around, eating the bugs and eating the grass and everything else. But when they've done that, you've got to take them off and let the ground come back. And that's really important.
Give us a sense of what life is like on the farm for the pigs. What sort of environment do they grow up in?
Look, we have 5 different breeds of pigs. All of them are for outdoor. Like, you can't take a white pig and put it outdoors. And we try and create an environment. As I said, pigs are really, really intelligent. They need stimulus. They need to be able to root around. They need to be able to get away from each other. They need to be able to go and make a wallow when it's hot. So they need space. They're very, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a pecking order. You put pigs together and they quickly sort out who's the boss and who's not. So you've got to give them space to move away. And that's one of the challenges with indoor piggeries. They don't have that challenge and they get stressed. You've got to keep pigs busy.
You mentioned 5 breeds of pigs there. What are they, and why have you chosen those?
Um, Look, when I started farming, we started at the front end, not the back end. So we knew what we wanted to do in terms of the products that we wanted to put out. And we needed to work out how to get there. So we want to make charcuterie products. We want to have butcher's cuts and things like that. And each particular breed we have throws different characteristics. So we can take those characteristics and say, look, they're our charcuterie pigs and everything else. So the 5 pigs we've got Hampshires, Durocs, Berkshires, Black Pig, and a pig called a Tokyo X, which is a Japanese type breed. Now, each of those different breeds throws different characteristics. Like, the Hampshires are really well-muscled pig, great for hams. The Duroc has a really long loin, makes great bacon. Berkshire, obviously, high fat content, great for charcuterie. Is a bit slower growing than the other pigs, but by slower growing means they've got more flavour. The black pig is a really meaty pig, similar to steak, and really good pig for dry aging. And the Tokyo X, which is a combination of Duroc, Berkshire, and a pig called a Beijing Black, throws really similar characteristics to Wagyu, really intramuscular fat.
You mentioned that you started with the front end, like knowing sort of what product you wanted to deliver. Tell us a little bit about the diet of each breed, and have you had to alter it for that end sort of product?
Look, yeah, absolutely. Not so much the breed. We alter the feed depending on what stage they are in their life. And we supplement. We have a basic feed which we've designed, which is a pellet barley based, and our feed is different from most farmers because we are trying to lay fat. Now, most of your supermarket pigs lay, 6 to 8 millimetres of fat, and a lot of butchers, if you go over that, they won't touch the meat. We want a fat content of 10 to 12. We want to produce a fattier pig, and our fat is a lot healthier than other pigs because of what they eat, because of the natural ingredients they eat. So we have a basic pellet that we have designed for our pigs. Now, on top of that, we supplement feed. We get whey from the local cheese maker. We get a whole heap of spent barley from the local brewer. Obviously, lots of bread. We have 2 bakeries. We pick up lots of sourdough. And then we have the local greenhouse who gives us all the veggies that they can't sell.
You mentioned the charcuterie. Tell us a little bit about that and what you're making.
Okay, so obviously we nose to tail. We get whole animals. We need to use the whole body. So we will make, guanciale from the cheek. We'll make capicola from the neck. We make 3 types of bacon. We make pancetta. We make 3 different types of salamis. And we cure prosciutto.
Wow. Well, is there any particular sort of favourites, and can you tell us sort of, how to make it?
Look, there's 2 processes we're talking about here. One is curing, which is basically the addition of salt to a muscle. And what we're doing is we're drawing moisture out. It's a very old technique, and basically Captain Cook would not have discovered Australia without curing, because he brought salted beef with him, and that's what they lived on. That's the basic process. Is we're putting salt on something. In some instances, we are doing a lot more, such as bacon. In some instances, such as prosciutto, we do very little, and salt's the only additive. The other process we have is a fermented meat, which is salami, and that is the addition of bacteria to actually create a fermentation. And we run the class, and I say in the class that if I was to take some mincemeat and put it on the kitchen table and leave it for 24 hours at 25 degrees and come back the following day and say we're going to eat it, you would say I'm crazy. But that is the process of making salami.
Tell us a little bit about these courses, because people can get involved and learn the art of charcuterie. What do they get out of these courses?
Look, if I can just step back from that a second, one of the things we really want to do is engage with people in what we're doing and have them come to the farm and look at what we're doing and understand how we process our pigs and what we do. Now, the course we run, which is really incredibly popular, we take a whole pig, and it's usually an older sow, probably dressing out about 120, 140 kilos, so we're talking a fairly big pig. And basically we follow traditional Italian, what happened 500 years ago in the local village. And what would happen is they're coming into winter, they need meat for winter, they've got no refrigeration, so they process a pig and they preserve it. And that's what we do. We butcher the whole pig, we break it down into muscles and primal cuts, and then we make everything head to tail, from head cheese all the way through to prosciutto.
Well, what sort of benefit would sort of a young chef have, by doing one of these courses with you?
Look, here we have an understanding of the different muscles, and we talk about, the cooking techniques. We talk about the challenge in choosing a muscle, and there's this contradiction between tenderness and flavour, and you can't have them both. And you need to decide which one you want, because the more tender a muscle is, the less flavour it has. The more flavour it has, the less tender it is. So you've got to you choose the correct cooking method for which muscles. So we basically break it down, and we talk about the 3 basic primals on a pig: shoulder, loin and leg. What are the options for each one? And from there, look, we make fresh sausages, and then we basically do a whole lot of curing, from bacon to capicola, and we make salami.
That sort of discussion is fascinating about choosing the line of tenderness or flavour. Is there a cut, that sort of exemplifies either both of those, and the best way to cook it? One that's leans on that tenderness, and the best way to cook is a particular cut, and perhaps the flavour.
Look, the classic is a long fillet, which for me I wouldn't eat. Tender as, but absolutely no flavour. My personal favourite is the neck, which, if we're talking about a steer, would be the Scotch fillet. And I think there's a nice combination of flavour and tenderness there. But as you move your way through, steaks such as the skirt or the flank, I think, are really interesting, because Number one, the fibre, the texture of the meat is really good. But again, there's a really nice combination of flavour and tenderness if it's cooked right.
With so many different breeds and your expertise with cookery, do they eat differently, the different breeds that you're creating?
Not necessarily the breeds, but as I said, during certain phases of their life, we will feed them a lot more. I guess if we're looking, so we've got a Berkshire sow that we're saying, okay, this is going to go for charcuterie, they will get the bread and everything that's going to lay really nice back fat, because that's what you're looking for in your pigs for charcuterie. If you're looking at butcher's cuts, not so much fat, you're looking for flavour. So we'll try and put them on interesting pasture where we're going to get some dynamic meat.
After decades in the hospitality sector, what sort of impact has running a farm and being out on the farm had on you?
I don't have to employ chefs and waiters. So that's a positive thing. Look, it's a totally different lifestyle. It's a really different headspace to working in a kitchen. In a kitchen, you've got deadlines, you've got service, you've got, you get up in the morning on a farm and you think you're going to do these things and your day just goes in a totally opposite direction. And you lose time. And, I laugh. People will say, look, how about you come around for dinner at such and such time, and we're always late, or there's always something happen, because you just can't be time dependent when you own a farm.
Where does your product go to, and, how can people get access to it?
Okay, so people can come to the farm. We have a little shop they can buy direct. We attend a number of farmers markets. We go to Maria down at Sage. We go to the Berry Farmers Market. There's a market at Lake Burrell that we go to. We have a number of retail outlets in the local area. Milton Farm Shop, the Pantry down at Maria, the Pines at Kiama, all stock our products. And online, we sell pork packs and beef packs and things like that people can buy. And if it's close, we'll go and deliver locally.
Well, what's the best sort of eating experience you've had with your pork?
I should say my son has joined the business and he works full-time as a butcher, and he makes the most gorgeous pork headers that we enjoy eating.
What's the secret to a great pork header?
Fresh spices that go in it, but at the end of the day, bloody good pork.
What's changed about your life with sort of moving to the farm and creating this unique farm with both cattle and pigs? Has it changed you?
Yeah, look, definitely. I mean, I grew up Northern Beaches in Sydney, and moving down there, it's a more simplistic lifestyle. I guess it makes you focus on, what is important. There's probably a little less stimuli on the farm than there is in the city, which for me is a positive thing. Some people may not think that way. And I just find it extremely rewarding.
We've had a few people on the show that have thrown in sort of their careers and dived into pig farming and enjoyed all the experiences of that. What sort of advice would you have for someone that might be looking to sort of create a small farm like you have?
Have the expectation that things are going to go wrong, because they will. Do not set yourself deadlines. It will happen when it happens.
You've had this most extraordinary sort of change from hospitality into butchery and farming. What do you love about what you do?
I can still, I still cook and do dinners and things that I'm in a position now that I can pick and choose the sort of things that I want to do. If I want to do a nice dinner party, I'll put a nice dinner party on and do that. If I want to run a charcuterie course, I will do that. The thing about hospitality and food and everything else like that is don't get into it unless you absolutely love it. And I absolutely love it. And I'm just lucky enough that I'm in a position that I have gorgeous produce that I can cook and just do what I love.
Well, Ian, it's amazing what you're doing. It's an honour to have you on the Crackling today to hear a part of your story. Please keep in touch and we'll catch up again soon.
Will do. Absolute pleasure. Thanks, Huck.
This is The Crackling, a Deep in the Weeds production in partnership with PorkStar. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we catch up with some of Australia's best chefs and pork producers to discover what makes Australian pork so special.